My name is Murtaza.
I'm Mia.
I'm Yin.
And I'm Leah.
And we're all high schoolers from Ascent Services, an organization meant to help you guys make the jump between middle and high school as easily as possible. Today, we'll be presenting our webinar, How to Survive Freshman Year, giving you a brief overview on a couple important things you'll need to know to do well in your freshman year. We'll be answering questions at the end of each segment that we present. So save your questions until then, or you can ask them in the chat and we'll answer them then as well. And without further ado, let's get right into the presentation.
So to start off this webinar, we're going to begin with something familiar, courses. But before we jump into this, we would first like to emphasize that the point of this webinar is to help you prevent any unnecessary stress and succeed in high school. That includes highlighting something that you may be already highly aware of, GPA. So for those who don't know what a GPA is, it's an abbreviation for grade point average. And to put it simply, it's an average of all your semester grades that you get in high school. Your cumulative GPA during your freshman, sophomore, and junior years will be a part of what colleges will evaluate. So it's important to stay motivated throughout high school, even when you're tired. Now, how may you do that, you ask? Well, you're just gonna have to find out. Of course, all of you guys know that these courses are some example of courses that you may be taking next year. You have your Lit. 9 or English 1 classes, Algebra 1 or Math 1, PE, and Biology or other science classes. And though it may usually required for your freshman year, most high schoolers would take foreign language classes their freshman and sophomore year to just get it over with quickly. While there may be honor versions or even AP versions of these classes, don't worry about them. Freshmen wouldn't usually be able to take honors or APs unless it's a math or foreign language class, and even then, you would still need to take a placement test. So for now, for those who haven't even done course selection yet or still have the ability to change your classes still, lucky, let me just quickly go over what an accelerated honor or AP course is. So an accelerated course is usually a course where you would be taking a class that's higher than your grade level. For example, some students may already have taken Algebra or Math 1 in middle school and is ready to take geometry in high school. They would be considered to be on an accelerated math course. An honors class is an accelerated version of your regular class with additional content. So this would usually mean more self-study and work outside of classes. And finally, AP classes are usually the hardest classes on campus. These are going to be your college level versions of your regular classes. Now, most people would take these courses to be competitive for college, challenge themselves, or to improve their GPAs. If you believe you're up to the challenge, remember to talk to people who know these classes or still have experience with them to make sure the class is best for you. The best time to decide is during course selection when all your options are still in front of you. During this time, ask yourself if there are any prerequisites, co-requisites, or any other factors you need to take into account. This can still be applied to your sophomore year, your junior year, and your senior year during course selection. So what if I'm already taking accelerated honor or AP class? Well, first of all, make sure you have a support system composed of your teachers, friends, people who you trust, and preparation, such as practice problems in Khan Academy during summer, so you wouldn't be caught off guard when you start your class. We'll get into more detail on how to communicate with your faculty in the coming slides. Now, when taking these courses, you may be in classes with upperclassmen and not with your friends as you usually would in middle school. Know that the upperclassmen in these classes are going to be super friendly, so don't be afraid to become friends with them. And then going back to that support system I mentioned previously, staying connected with your friends from middle school can also help keep you motivated throughout high school and lessen that stress. So now, there are times when classes or workload simply just gets too much. In those times, it's important to ask yourself if there's anything you can do to elevate some of that pressure. For example, like improving your work ethic or asking teachers for help in understanding concepts. We'll talk more about how to do this in our later slides. But if you tried everything you can and you still can't keep up, even though you've improved your work ethic and you've done everything, well, One, take a step back. Even if it's just to take a physical deep breath, try to look at it from an objective standpoint and make sure you're not letting the emotions get the best of you. Communicate with the counselors. Set up a discuss with them on finding the class that's best suited for you that will challenge you in a positive way. And then lastly, breaking through that fear of changing classes. By then, it will most likely be already in the middle of the year, and you may be uncomfortable with your classmates and the new friends you made. It's natural to feel nervous or apprehensive of switching classes. Have confidence that your new class will be equally welcoming and fun as your old class was. In addition, you can still stay connected with your old classmates by making plans to hang out outside of class. And don't forget that your support system is always going to be there for you. The most important thing to keep in mind is that always know that when you're changing classes, you're not giving up. You're trying a new path to success. Now, to prevent this pressure from building up, use your resources smartly so you can maximize your time and effort. One, look at the course outline and objectives. So when I was a freshman, my biology teacher would give us this handout with a unit outline on it, and then every time the unit changed, and it would be so crammed with information that no one wanted to read it at all. But after taking notes every day and just getting exhausted because it was just taking up so much time, I realized that the outline actually had summarized all the key concepts that I needed to know for my class and for all the tests. It also gave me a structure to follow so I wouldn't get lost in all that information that I was getting bombarded with. So look at the course outline when you get it and before the beginning of every class so you still have a map in mind to follow along with. 2, collaborate with those in your class. Emphasis on your. So you may be tempted to work with your friends in similar classes, and while that does work, working with those in your class and learning from them can help you better understand the content and make it easier to follow content later in your class. In addition, learning with others can help develop a style that your teacher would like, whether that be a writing style, a math method, etc., as well as help you with that networking that you may need to develop in the future. And lastly, do extra credit. I have to emphasize this so much. This helps develop that buffer in your grades, so if something happens that causes your grade to drop, that buffer will still be there to prevent your grade from dropping below a certain point. And it also serves as a friendly warning so that maybe you should start focusing on this class without creating all that unnecessary pressure or stress. Now, if your schedule has supplementary classes or other extracurricular activities crammed into it that causes you to have trouble keeping up, using these 2 strategies can help elevate much of that stress. Having balance is important. In fact, we will be touching more upon this in time management and organizing slides with Mia here in the later slides. For my part, one thing I will suggest to help with this is to keep note of the main ideas of each class for organization reasons, and it's a great effective resource to use later. In addition, apply and adapt the skills you've learned in middle school. Those habits, folders, or getting to class just 10 minutes can still be applicable to high school. So just remember to adjust them so they would fit your high school schedule and your needs. Any questions?
You guys can turn on your mics for questions or leave them in the chat.
Don't be afraid, I won't bite. I guess not. Okay. So let's move on to Leah here. Leah will be introducing the possible school resources you may have in high school.
So there are a lot of academic and non-academic resources you guys have access to on your campus. The first and most important resource are your class teachers. You can go to them if you're having trouble in a particular class, and they will give you extra help during lunch or even after school. Remember, teachers want you to succeed. Another are your counselors, which can give you advice about almost anything related to your high school career, including classes, extracurriculars, and even college planning. Another resource that I didn't know my school had till last year is your school therapist. Their main goal is to provide guidance, improve your mental health, and help deal with any social or emotional difficulties. There are also school resources that you can turn to that actually aren't academic related. One category are your clubs, which can provide a great support system throughout the entire year. You can build lasting relationships with people of all grades and share common interests, whether it be business and future business leaders of America or math on the math team, and so on. And the final resource are your coaches or advisors for school sports and arts. They'll be more than happy to give you tips or advice to improve your team.
As for some physical resources, a planner and a calendar are great tools to help keep you stay organized. So many of y'all probably already use these tools, but for those who aren't using these, a planner is great for compacting short-term assignments and homework in one place and should be used at the beginning of every class when you see the assignments in your homework section. Calendars, on the other hand, are great for keeping track of deadlines, test dates, and organizing a timeline for long-term projects. This is helpful as a reminder for especially those people like me who always turn their work in late. Unfortunately, that's not going to pass in high school, and getting only half credit can greatly impact your grade. If you're worried about your calendar getting too overcrowded, color code your events so it's easy to know which deadline belongs to which project. Now, whether to use a virtual or physical planner is entirely up to you and your needs. I personally enjoy using a virtual planner because I'm always on my phone and I'm more likely to look through my notifications or pay attention when my phone makes a noise. I'm also a bit of an environmentalist and try to reduce my usage of paper and plastic in my everyday life by using technology. Now, some example of these tools are Google Classroom or Google Calendar and My Study Life. You can also use your phone's built-in reminder system or calendar. Just remember to turn on the notifications and settings and take your phone off of silent or vibrate when you get home. However, if you're like the majority of my friends and enjoy social media or technology in general a little too much, it's perhaps best for you to use a classic paper and pen instead. Mia's recommendation here is Blue Sky, which is a great brand for all of these preferences. Now, personally, I know planners don't work for me because it just seems so much work, and for others, navigating a planner can be confusing. Mia here actually had offered some amazing alternatives that she uses. So if a planner doesn't work out for you, try these out. According to her, and I quote, "One thing you can do is what I call the note card method. Each week, have a note card for each subject and write the homework down there, crossing out whatever you've done each day. You can keep these in a small pouch or a box in your book bag. This allows you to look at one subject at a time and can make things seem much less overwhelming. Another method is to write down the homework in the margins of your notes or on your classwork for the day, and just in case you forgot about it like I do so often, highlight it so that when you review the work later, it will stick out at you. Of course, remember that all of these are still suggestions, and it's okay if none of them work for you. You do whatever works best for you." Any questions? Let's see. Well,
I know one thing that I've heard from a lot of students in this case is, what do I do if I leave my planner somewhere or if it gets misplaced a lot? And for that, I'd say, at least in what I used to do, is I'd write things down in a planner and then I'd take a picture of the planner before I left my school for that day, which makes sure that I didn't leave it in a class or make sure that I didn't, forget about the homework. Just in case that's a problem for you guys. I know I used to leave my planner everywhere.
okay, so now let me hand off the mic to Mia here for tips on communication.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk to you guys about communication and why this is an important resource for your high school career. So in high school, you want to use all the resources you can get, and this includes working with the people around you. Remember that your friends and family are here to help and support you, and that teachers and staff members can help provide valuable tools for success. But it's up to you to communicate your needs. If you want help, it's okay to ask for it, and it's good to advocate for yourself. So why should you communicate with teachers and faculty? Well, like Leah said, teachers are your #1 resource for if you're having struggles in a class. You can set up time with teachers for extra help when you're struggling in these classes, before or after school, or during brunch and lunch. Teachers can also provide extra practice and resources directly related to the curriculum. You don't want to spend hours looking for a worksheet online that covers exactly what's going on when your teacher might have a worksheet or even extra credit for what the curriculum that they are teaching has in it. Teachers can also provide perspectives into the specifics of an assignment and answer any questions you may have about them. And trust me, there's no one better to ask questions to about an assignment than the person who's grading it. So why should you communicate with faculty? Faculty can provide help with course planning and switching, something that you may need during your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. Counselors and school therapists can also provide support for non-academic struggles. And any faculty member can help find extracurricular activities for you that can really boost your high school experience, whether it's telling you of a good sports team to join, or if it's telling you about an internship opportunity that could really help you get into college. So how exactly should you communicate with your teachers? The one rule I always say to follow is to be kind. I know this is a given, but remember, respect and courtesy is key. A good way to communicate and make a good relationship with your teachers from the get-go is by greeting them before and after class, with whether it's something like, "Hi, Miss Smith," or "Have a good day, Miss Smith," things like that. As long as you're cheerful, I promise you your teacher will warm up to you. Some added benefits of communicating with your teachers can include awards, which are amazing for college. It depends on the middle school whether you had these, but it's not just things like honor roll. For example, in my school, we have a career and technical education pathway for engineering, and you can get an award in that if you complete it all and are an exemplary classmate. Another added benefit is a letter of recommendation, which is amazing for college. Letters of recommendations from teachers are often required on college applications. I know they are in the Common App for my state. So how should you communicate with your faculty? And just in case, just to clarify, who exactly are your faculty? Faculty are people like admins and academic and non-academic counselors that usually exist in student services in the front offices, and they aren't scary at all. So be sure to reach out for help if you need it. A good way to communicate with your faculty is by email. Make sure that you sound professional and also be kind and courteous. These people can be busy sometimes, so they may not get back to you right away, but when they do, you'll get their full attention. It's really good to schedule appointments with your faculty during lunch or before and after school, or during brunch if you have it. Because classes in high school can be a lot more rigorous, you don't want to miss anything, which is why I don't suggest scheduling an appointment during a class. In fact, most counselors or faculty won't allow this. Some added benefits of communicating with your faculty are, again, letters of recommendation, which from a counselor holds much more weight than from a teacher since they've known you for all 4 years instead of just 1 or 2 semesters. They can also provide a good network for you if you're looking for opportunities like internships, or even if you want to know which classes are best to take with which teachers. So why should you communicate with your friends and family, specifically in reference to high school? Well, friends can help you stay focused and motivated while you're studying. This can happen through study groups, or even just knowing that your friend is working on the same assignment as you or working just as hard as you at the same time. Friends can also help to explain things in easier to understand terms than teachers. I know my biology teacher used to just go on with big SAT words and I had no idea what they meant, so I'd go to one of my upperclassmen friends and get them to define some of the terms for me. You can communicate with your family to help limit distractions while you're doing homework. For example, if I tell my family when there's this sign on my door while I'm doing homework, that means not to come in, it would prevent things like my sister coming in when she wanted help on her math homework while I was doing mine. Family can also provide resources if you're struggling and make sure that you're completing schoolwork. In high school, every assignment counts, and having someone else to make sure and support you and just encourage you to complete it can be a really amazing resource. So, meeting new people is also something that you should do in high school, whether it's upperclassmen or just people from different middle schools. So where can you meet new people? I'd say any school organization, a club, an honor society, or a sports team. These are all really good examples. Make sure that when you go to school and when you go to your high school, within the first week, you look at a list of clubs or a list of sports, and you look at if there's any forms that you have to complete or deadlines you have to follow in order to make it into these clubs, honor societies, sports teams, etc. You don't want to miss your opportunity to do so. I suggest finding an organization based on something you're passionate about. And if there isn't one, you can talk to your admin about making one. I promise you're not the only person that's passionate about a certain thing in your school. When you're in these spaces, don't be afraid to speak out and share your ideas. These are inclusive places for everyone. And then if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Something I hear a lot is, why should I talk to people that are outside of my middle school group, right? Well, in high school, you're not always going to be with these people, and it can be important to find people in your class that you can study with as well. And this isn't just for studying. I know a lot of times my school has different lunches. We have like A lunch and B lunch, like first and second lunch. So it can be really important to find people in certain lunches. Oh yeah, of course. Thank you, Kim. How do I manage time between coursework, after-school activities, and clubs? So I'm going to go into a little bit about time management later, but this is a really good question, and thank you so much. So a really good thing that I find to do is I like to make a little schedule for my week, and I could say just using a calendar and a planner, like Yin said, can be also really helpful. So obviously, then again, you also have priorities. I'm going to go over a lot of this stuff later as well. So coursework and then after school activities and clubs, it's important to have priorities. Sometimes you may have to skip a club meeting if you have coursework to do, or if you have a sports team or if you have a sports game that you absolutely have to go to. I know some of my experiences with this are I'm in a club for writing. Okay, I'm so sorry about that. And if that's it, I will hand off the mic.
Hi guys, so I'll be talking about an important tool that you all know and we use throughout your entire high school career, which is technology. And during this pandemic, more schools are beginning to rely heavily on technology, so you'll be definitely using either Zoom, Google Meets, or some other form of online learning this year. So as you know, there are many benefits to having access to technology. One benefit of technology is email, where you can quickly contact your teachers and friends if you have any questions that you forgot to ask during class. You can also contact your school counselor if you need to set up a meeting, and you can probably find their email on your school's website. And an important note that I have is to check your school email every day so you can see updates and deadlines as quickly as possible. And another benefit is a given, and it's the internet. You will most likely be using Google to find sources and evidence for a particular assignment in your science, literature, or history class. Although the internet can help you with homework, please don't search up the answers. I know this is really tempting, but this will only hurt your own understanding of the concept and will not help you be prepared for the test or finals. And lastly, school resources are a tool that I advise all of you to take advantage of. I personally use Google Drive and Google Slides to write most of my assignments and presentations. Additionally, teachers may use Google Classroom as a way to post assignments and give updates when not in class. Regarding grading, schools use various online portals where you can access your grades and see upcoming assignments. And if you don't know what grading system your high school used, just go to their website to find out. So unfortunately, technology does have its flaws. Even though we may not admit it, we can easily waste time by checking social media for hours. And I, for one, struggled to close certain apps because I kept wanting to Snapchat or DM my friends. And streaming apps like Netflix or Disney Plus take up so much of our time because a lot of TV shows have 20 to 40-minute episodes. And I remember being addicted to Friends and The Office, which are both popular comedies that some of you may know, where I would watch at least 3 episodes per sitting and just kept wanting to watch more. So phones also take away our focus. when trying to study or finish homework assignments. For example, hearing notifications immediately draws our attention and we just can't focus on our work anymore. My advice is to not check your phone while you are studying because you will not be able to retain the information if you try to multitask. Lastly, technology decreases your productivity when working on assignments. In fact, 80% of the time you spend online really has nothing to do with your work. That 80% includes social media, video games, and even texting, which all take up crucial time for you to study. If you spend hours and hours after school just on your phone, you will obviously have less and less time to put your hard work and critical thinking into academics. And this is the definition of procrastination, which can lead you down a very dangerous path. So when you procrastinate or don't study for tests, there are various consequences that you will suffer that I call the 3 L's. One is obviously lack of studying and receiving a bad grade on tests and quizzes because instead of reviewing and practicing, you wasted time on your phone. You always want to go into a test feeling like you couldn't have studied anymore and that the hours you spent studying last night will pay off. Another consequence is losing easy points in the gradebook for missing homework assignments. And this may differ between every school, but the gradebook for each class will usually have different weighted categories included homework, tests, and projects. And like I said, each category is weighted differently to encompass your entire class grade. But let me tell you, homework is the easiest category to get 100% in. Even though homework will only be about 10 to 15% of your grade, it can actually save your grade if you're borderline between an A and a B. And if you get a 0 on a homework assignment, that'll dramatically drop your grade. Lastly, some of you may know, but in order to participate in certain school activities such as the basketball team, the dance team, or color guard, you need to maintain a certain GPA in order to participate. Keep in mind that the minimum GPA requirement differs in each school system, so I advise you to research what GPA scale your school will be. Use the requirement as motivation to work hard in school and not worry your coaches that you may not be able to play in your next game. Although it may seem impossible to stay away from your phone, here are 6 easy ways you guys can use to limit your screen time. The first way is open settings and go to screen time. This application allows you to set time limits on certain apps that are distracting or to schedule time away just from your phone. The second way is downloading specific apps that will help you focus and also make you feel guilty if you check your phone. This will motivate you to not open social media or text messages and spend that time studying or doing homework. The third one is an important one, which is separation. While doing schoolwork, make sure to leave your phone in a separate room so you're not tempted to use your device. If you can't see your phone or hear it buzz, you'll be more likely to stay on task and complete your designated work. The fourth one is a given, but please keep your phone on silent. This is so you don't distract yourself, classmates, and teachers around you during school. And it's embarrassing if your phone starts to ring and the teacher has to confiscate it in front of the entire class. This is a good habit to get used to now, so you won't forget to silence it during your freshman year. And if none of those 4 options work, it's best to just delete the app that is distracting you. And once you get through that stressful week and have time to relax, just re-download the app. The last way that I suggest is to just turn off your phone. Although it may take time to turn it back on, this is a great way to block any notifications. Your phone will never light up, so it won't distract you while doing your work. So one thing we should warn you about is that the rules in high school are much stricter than those in middle school. There will most likely be policies when using technology, which will be enforced by all of your teachers. So some may use a phone holder, which they hang on the wall. Students hate this, but teachers mostly love it. Basically, before the beginning of class, you have to turn in your phone to the phone holder so you'll be separated from your device for the entirety of the class. And once the period is over, you get to collect your phone and get on with your day. So some teachers may be stricter than others, but you should never use your phone unless instructed by the teacher. In high school, you can get your phone taken away for the rest of the period or even the rest of the school day if caught using it for a test. In addition, you could get a meeting with the dean or a principal and have a call with your parents if you continue to misuse your phone during class. Overall, just try not to use your phone that often during school. School is the perfect time to get to know your teachers and socialize with your friends and classmates. So once school starts back up again, please don't be the person who's constantly looking at their phone. Spend that time with people who you haven't seen in a long time and catch up with them. Any questions? Yay. So one question I should go over is, why should I change my study habits for high school if I already got good grades in middle school while spending a lot of time on my phone? And I want to emphasize that the rigor and workload in high school will be much greater than in middle school. So you will have more homework in each class and the test will be more difficult. In addition, even though you may have gotten away from not doing a certain homework assignment or project in middle school, your high school teachers will not be as forgiving. So any questions? Okay, so I will pass it on to Mia, who will be going over our last section of the webinar.
All right, hi everybody. Like Leah said, this is our last section. It's kind of divided up into two sections, so if you don't get to ask your question during the first one, just save it for the last one. So I'm here to talk about your mental health and your high school success. So what exactly is mental health? Mental health is a big term, and as such, it's got some big words in the answer, but I'm going to break it down for you. So mental health is your cognitive, behavioral, and emotional health. I know. It's the health of how you think, act, and feel. As you can imagine, this impacts a lot of areas in your life, whether it's social situations or even things like interacting with your family every day. And it influences your high school success. So how does mental health contribute towards success? Well, your emotional well-being helps contribute towards social skills, which can help you communicate, which is always, as we mentioned earlier, really important in high school. Your cognitive well-being is definitely important for helping you focus and help you focus during studying and paying attention in class. Your behavioral well-being helps you form good habits like not procrastinating or making a good sleep schedule, all of which are really important in high school. So, as we know, things can get too much in high school. So what should you do? Well, I always recommend taking a mental health day. This is a day where you just forget about school and homework and you relax and focus on yourself. It's also good to seek help from your support system, which can include family, friends, and counselors. And if you're in crisis, you can always reach out to a hotline. Remember, you're not alone. There are lots of people and resources to support you, and it's more than okay to ask for help. Here are some universal ANON hotlines that you can text or call if you're in a crisis. There's the Crisis Text Line, the Crisis Support Service in Nevada, the Hope Line, and Your Life, Your Voice. If you want to find more resources, you can go to teenhealthandwellness.com, statistics, and hotlines. So, how can we boost our mental health to keep those things from happening? Well, one thing is organization. So one way of being organized is just to keep your schoolwork organized. I know you did this in middle school, but it is doubly as important as high school when you'll have so many more things for all of your classes. I recommend having a section of a binder or even a folder for each class. Then divide that section into another section, into more sections actually, for homework and notes, long-term assignments, short-term assignments, etc. This will make it easier to find things. Following that principle, also label papers at the top to make them easier to find. Clean out your backpack and folders regularly so that you don't waste valuable space. So one thing that you can do is have a dedicated workspace. A dedicated workspace can help increase your productivity, keep you focused, and make it easier to start work. Things you're going to need when you're studying in high school. So there's 4 main questions that I always ask to decide if my workspace is organized. Can I find what I needed easily? That means, do I have materials for all kinds of assignments here so I don't have to get up and find them later? Are there any distractions? This can be something like knickknacks, or it can even be a crowded area. I know I used to keep my textbooks on my desk and I'd have to be constantly moving them around, right, in order to have enough space to work. I always follow the rule that if it's clean and neat and clear of most things, some decor is okay, but keep it minimal. If it's clean and clear, then I'm good to go. So what should you do before you start studying? Well, there are 3 main things that I always do that I think are pretty good system. So it's gathering materials, making a plan of attack, and setting a schedule. So gathering materials before you work is super important. You don't want to have to get up, go all the way downstairs to get your calculator before coming back up to your workspace when then you completely lose track of whatever you were working on in your math problem. I suggest making a list of what you need for all assignments and then going to get the materials. The next thing, next slide. The next thing to do is make a plan of attack, which is basically the order in which you're going to do your assignments. This is where prioritization comes in. So when do you have the most energy to study? It could be in the beginning, at the end, when you're so close to the finish line, or even in the middle. I suggest doing the hardest or most important assignments then. So when are the assignments due? Generally, I'd say do the assignments that are due first the soonest. And which assignments are most important? This can be to the class, to you, to the grade, or to your understanding of the subject. Also consider how important your class is to your GPA, or if it's a prerequisite for something else that you really need to understand. Remember, it's all a balance. Next is to set a schedule for your work. You don't want to have to work for like 3 hours and then totally burn yourself out and not have time for anything else. Because of this, it's actually scientifically recommended to set a schedule where you work for a certain amount of time, break for a certain amount of time, and then work for a certain amount of time again. The important question to ask is how long you can stay productive. You should set this as your work time, but your work time should only be in between 30 and 60 minutes long. Breaks should be in between each work period, and these should be 5 to 10 minutes long. No longer, because then you'll lose any train of thought you may have had. Don't go on your phone during these breaks, or these breaks may turn longer, or you can get easily distracted. How many cycles, and you should also set how many cycles, which is work and break, you should work on an assignment at a time. You should set a limit for the assignment based on how strenuous it is, because you don't want to burn yourself out. Any questions? And I think I saw some in the chat if those haven't been answered yet. So how important is your GPA in your 9th grade year? Did any of y'all take that, or should I take that one?
Oh, I got it. So a good GPA is going to be very important in your 9th grade, but it's going to be ultimately averaged out with your sophomore GPA and your junior GPA. And while some colleges, like the UC system, won't look at the freshman GPA, the majority of the colleges in the US will look at the freshman GPA. So yeah, it's important to get your GPA as high as you can go in freshman year. Would any of you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's really important because freshman year, the classes are generally easier than sophomore and junior year. So if you can work hard then and kind of make like a buffer for yourself, just in case like maybe something happens your sophomore or junior year, I also think that's really good, in addition to making sure that, you know, you're still working as hard as you can all years.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be like that basis you need in your sophomore and junior year. If you can make it through freshman year, it's going to be easier your sophomore and junior year.
Also because the classes are in freshman year are often prereqs for sophomore and junior year. You just want to make sure that you're working hard and understanding all of those too.
Oh my.
Just a second, I can pull up the presentation real quick. Our apologies about that. Let me pull that up. And I should be able to. All right. Sorry about that, guys. I'm still trying to figure out how to Zoom. Oh boy. All right. Does another one of you guys want to pull up the presentation?
Yeah, I can pull up the presentation for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just give me 1 second. Let me get onto the right slide.
Yeah, we're on the slide should be about actually what Kim asked about, which is a lot of stuff about time management and keeping a balance.
See, and present. Is that okay?
Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much. Sorry about that, guys. So an important thing, like a lot of us have mentioned just throughout the presentation is time management. And this doesn't just mean with assignments. This means on how you organize your day. Organizing your day through a schedule or routine is a really amazing way to find balance between extracurriculars, sport assignments, and everything else. So there's two different ways to organize your time. A schedule is organization based on time, which means you have time slots for everything. So like I wake up at 8:30, I eat breakfast at 8:45, I shower at 9 o'clock. Whereas a routine is usually based on order, where it would be more like I wake up, then I eat breakfast, then I take a shower. Things like that. Having a routine and a schedule is super important in high school because it allows you to make sure you have enough time for homework, you have enough time for extracurriculars, and you have enough time for other things. Schedules and routines are interchangeable. Some days you can use either. On days that are more relaxed, you're going to want to use a routine, but on days where you have a lot of work, it can be really good to use a schedule just to make sure that you get everything done. So what should your schedule or routine include? Well, it shouldn't just include academics, let me tell you. It should include things you enjoy, like socializing with friends, spending time with family, hobbies, sports, or maybe you just really enjoy an extracurricular activity. It should also include rest and self-care, such as listening to calming music, pampering yourself, or just relaxing. You deserve to relax. Trust me, freshman year can be stressful. In addition, basic reminders such as wake up and sleep times, when to eat food, when to drink water, and when to exercise. You want to make sure that you don't forget all these simple things that can help really boost your mental health and high school experience. So how should you manage your time on assignments? Don't procrastinate, please. You don't want to start an assignment that was given to you 3 weeks ago at 10 p.m. the night before, and trust me, there's a certain amount of time that you have and you probably won't be able to get it done. This is why you should make a schedule for longer projects that you can put on your calendar. For example, if I have an essay due in 3 weeks or something and I want to have it drafted within the first week, then I'd write on my calendar on the day I want to have it finished drafted, I'd be like, finish draft, right? That way I know where all these checkpoints are. I also suggest starting work early in the day to make sure that you have time for sleep because that's really important. Oh yeah, of course, Kim. I'll get to that right after the slide. An important thing is to remember to sleep. You should sleep 8 to 10 hours a night, make a sleep schedule, and stick to it. Try to eliminate bright lights and technology a half hour before bed to get some quality sleep, and don't stay up late to do an assignment. Like, yes, it's okay. Maybe you're pushing yourself a couple minutes past your bedtime. That's fine. When I say stay up late, I mean like 3 in the morning. You still have like 5 things to do and you're working on the first thing in the day. No, no deadline is as important as your health. And then questions. So some of my experiences with after school activities that I've done. So I did a lot of clubs. I did a philosophy club, a board game club, and a writing club. And specifically for the writing club, we would write pieces each week. And managing that time, because for me as a writer, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much of this, there's so much of like drafting and then planning because we do editing workshops each week. So with that, I think it's important to make sure that when you're scheduling time, you find your priorities in that. So maybe, you know, my club will be understanding if I don't do this, and maybe I don't need to do it every week, or maybe this club is really important to me, right? So I do want to do it. Be careful when you're prioritizing not to go all in on one thing. I think a lot of people's mentality, including mine, can be I have to do every single thing, or I have to put in 1,000% on this thing, which means I can't do enough on this thing. It's all a balance. Like if you have so much time each day to do work, you don't want to just put it all into academics or put it all into a club. I think that's really important. And then some other after school activities that I've taken up is I'm actually currently doing an internship with a foundation out of Iowa. And with that, with the way that internship works, it's like a flexible hour internship, so I don't really have to go anywhere. again, with the schedule, that can be really helpful. I think also making sure to communicate with your peers your schedule. So like I'll tell my friends, hey, I'm not going to be online from this time to this time. Is that okay? Like if you need me, you can still find me or call me, things like that. But I'm going to be offline for the next little bit. And communicating that can be really helpful, just so like you don't have any anxiety around like, oh, do they think I'm being rude or something? And then also communicating with teachers about extra things you're doing in case, you know, like, oh, I have to go on a trip this day and it's because of this, or maybe maybe you finish a test and you're like, hey, I want to work on something for a club or an internship. Is that okay? Right. So I hope that answers your question. And then if there's any more questions just on the slide as a whole, gonna leave it open to all of our participants. Yeah. And
thank you guys so much for listening to our webinar today on how to survive freshman year. I hope you guys learned a lot and feel more prepared going into high school in a couple of months. And if you did not get the chance to ask a question or come up with one later today, feel free to email us at tutoringbyascent@gmail.com. Also, if you would like to learn more about the upcoming mentor program, where you can get one-on-one advice from an upperclassman in high school, you or your parent can also email us about that or check out our social media accounts shown on this slide.